This is Frank Fantini. We are here with Kevin Sheehan, the brand new CEO of Scientific Games, a fellow who's also new to the gaming industry. So Kevin, a lot of folks, this is your introduction to a lot of folks. Tell us the Kevin Sheehan story, both personal history and also how you got to be CEO at Scientific Games.
Sure. Actually, a pretty interesting story. I've gone from driving taxi cabs when I was in college in New York City, becoming a public accounting guy after college, and then had an opportunity. I got a couple of phone calls about taking this really neat position working for a guy named Saul Steinberg. And at the time when I was interviewing for it, Time magazine had the cover article with a picture of Mickey Mouse with a lasso around Saul Steinberg, and we were in the process of trying to buy Disney. So that became the beginning of what became my career in interesting different positions, and led to, after we took the company public at Reliance after I joined there, and then the following year, based on the success of the IPO that we had at Reliance, I went with a group that we started. We thought there was an opportunity to create a second Spanish language television network. At the time, there was only Univision that was replaying programming out of Mexico through their parent company called Televisa. And we wanted to create quality programming for Latins living in the United States. And so we started to buy TV stations, one in New York, one in Miami, one in Los Angeles, and that became the beginning. And the Latins cluster in the big cities. So by buying those three, plus we started stations in Houston and San Francisco and San Antonio, all of a sudden we had the scale to become a network. Now what we needed to do is create programming, and we had the days of the week and the hours of the day, and we needed a network news, so we did a deal with CNN where the reporter would do the story in English, and then he'd step out, and then our person would step in and do it in Spanish. So we had this great fun experience in creating this Spanish language television network that turns out to be today a very big deal, and based on an idea that we had back in the late 80s. Then I went on and we started an interactive game platform called Sega Channel, which was an early iteration of trying to drive games into homes through cable. And I think we were way ahead of the technology curve at that point. So it launched, it was quite successful, but the churn was too high and the cost of bringing it into homes was a little bit higher than made sense. So then I moved on and went to work with a guy named Henry Silverman, and we bought Avis Rent-A-Car. It was an employee-owned company, and converted it we separated it out where he kept the royalty, so he had a franchise model, which was a company called Sendent. And we took the company public and had a very successful IPO. The stock doubled in a couple of years, and then it was sold off, and then went on to do other things. And in addition to running Avis globally, I bought Budget, and then we had two big, huge rent-a-car companies, and then acquired a fleet management company called PHH and a company called Right Express, which was a fuel card processor. So turned that into a very successful company, and then we were acquired, ironically, back by Sendent. And after that deal consummated, I then became the CFO of Sendent after they had an accounting fraud. So I was kind of the guy to come in and restore the credibility for the business, and went to do that for a number of years, and then went on to be the chairman and CEO of a bunch of the businesses in their portfolio. Then we broke that up, and then I went and taught for a couple of years and recalibrated. And then I got a phone call from the Apollo guys about coming they wanted to buy a cruise line, and it was called NCL, and I joined that. And the story there was it was a defeated business operating as a small player with two huge competitors. And when we went into the business, I remember Mickey Arison, who's turned out to be a good friend of mine at the time, saying, "Kevin, we don't even consider this NCL company a competitor." And when I'm looking at the industry, I'm looking at Royal Caribbean, and you guys are just the bottom feeder that pushes down pricing. And I always remember that. It was kind of a message I gave to our employees about this is what's at stake, guys. We're the laughing stock of the industry, to where we were at the end. after 7 years and 26 straight quarters of year-over-year earnings improvement and 26 straight quarters of margin improvement, which is incredible when you think about. I started there in 2008, the economic downturn happened, and oil prices, and the Concordia ship that crashed in Italy, and a whole litany of things that we worked our way through. And I left there in 2015, and then went back and taught for a while, and here I am with this great opportunity at Scientific Games.
So how did the Scientific Games opportunity come to you?
You know, it started with a couple of phone calls, and I did some homework about the business, and as you know, a roll-up of a few different gaming and lottery businesses, and it just seemed to me to be a company that was ready for a fresh look. And I looked at the debt levels, I looked at the opportunities if we could grow some earnings inside the business and change the composition of that, I won't say overnight, but over the next couple of years. It turns into a pretty significant opportunity for us.
So you're new to the gaming industry, and of course you're new to Scientific Games. What are your first impressions? What have you learned these first few months?
Yeah, I mean, new to the game industry, but I was exposed to it because at Norwegian Cruise Line, I had big casinos on every single ship, and we dealt with all of the operators, had relationships with everybody where we would do deals, and as a result of, say, an agreement that we would have events, and it would bring people into their casino, and then they would, as a result of coming to the casino, win opportunities to come on cruises and then spend money on the ships. So it was a win-win for both sides. So that became a big part of Norwegian Cruise Line's success, and to the point when I left, we led the industry in gaming from being not even the last player. So right. I learned a little bit about the business through that. I find this is a fascinating business. It's gone through quite a lot of iterations along the way, and at our company, we've got two really great brands with WMS and Bally's, and then with the Shuffle Master and all of the other pieces that have put into the equation. I come in, following a really solid CEO that has done a great job, but sometimes when you have a fresh perspective, it gives you the opportunity to step back and say, well, I get the way you've been doing that. And it was the same thing at Norwegian Cruise Line. It was the same thing at Avis, where people get set doing things a certain way because they've been in the industry, and you find it in industries where most people get comfortable in an industry, they kind of spend their career there. And I've come in as a person from outside the industry and have been able to step back and look at things and say, well, I get it, and that works well, but what about this, or what about that? And I think that fresh perspective should be a big positive. I'm hoping it'll be a big positive for us. And no matter who took this role, you're not going to know either the gaming business or you're not going to know the lottery business. There's very few people who have had both. So it just happens that I get the opportunity to learn too.
You partially answered this question, I think, but what similarities or lessons learned from your NCL turnaround can you apply to Scientific Games?
There's a whole, when we get to know each other, you'll know that I have a whole host of things that I use when I come into companies, and most of it is based on getting people to understand the opportunity to make all of our employees owners. Think as entrepreneurs, and EY awarded me the Entrepreneur of the Year. It was a big company, Norwegian Cruise Line, a $10 billion market cap company when we won the award. And you would say, Entrepreneur of the Year? That doesn't make sense for Norwegian Cruise Line. But that was kind of the culture I created at the company, where when you rally every employee to understand the opportunity and how, if we are successful, not only does it provide each and every one of the 8,500 employees with careers that they can be comfortable, they're going to be successful, but the leadership and the people that are in the bonus programs, that they can start to understand that they can actually earn bonuses and that we can actually be successful in moving stock prices. So get that passion, get that winning attitude, so to speak, and that every day we go home with the fire in the belly, that what is the next great thing we could do tomorrow. So that's the culture I'm trying to bring into the company.
Great. We have 4 different companies at one time now merged into one in a series of mergers. Every one of those mergers brings stress. part of the rationale of a merger is cost reduction and eliminating redundancies. So you had a lot of people who are former Bally employees and former WMS employees, and the folks who are there today have undergone a lot. Now we've got a new CEO comes in, a fellow who's got experience, a great deal of fame and credit for the NCL turnaround. Is there another round of cost cutting coming at Scientific Games, or more reorganization?
You know, I rather than getting too specific, I think as you come in, it takes a little bit of time really to take a grasp of the enormity of the business and make sure you're being smart about things. But I see opportunities across the organizations to cross-pollinate. When you look at the lottery business, there's things that I think we could be doing better across the whole organization, as opposed to having a group doing something in one place and a group doing something in another place. So what you would expect when you have 4 or 5 different companies coming together is there still tends to be a little bit of the silos. And getting a fresh look at that, I think there's opportunities there. You know, words that I'm comfortable saying is lean management, process improvement. How do we enhance the way we get to the customer? How do we deliver our services? How do we make it great? How do we keep, so it's customer service. It's a big part of the success of a company. So we got to get that you know, perfected, and we do a good job today. Is there other things we can do to strengthen that? Can we become the must-do brand? And that's what we're working towards.
So there's going to be cost reduction over time, because you're going to want to do that. But it sounds like you're talking more of a growth story at this point than a...
I think that everything's on the table. Is obviously, I haven't been there long enough to say this is exactly what A, B, C, and D are going to be. But when I think about it, and you know, your background would suggest you would be coming in and thinking about it the same way. I'm going to look at the income statement. I'm going to look at every line on the revenue side. I'm going to say, how do we do that? Is there a better way of doing that? Do we get to that the person who's going to make the order from us the best way possible? Do we provide them with the best information? Are we demonstrating that our product can give them a better return? So every line item on the revenue side, and then you look at the expense side, and are we executing well? Are we doing things as efficiently and effectively and providing the best go to the customer as we can? So there'll be a whole learning over you know, a period of quarters, but you'll see that there will be, you know, changes that go on as we learn more about the business.
One of the things that Scientific Games has, the analysts that cover, the equity analysts that cover this industry are very familiar with slot machines and slot systems, and even the table game products that you folks have. Lottery is not something that many of them have paid attention to, and maybe don't fully understand. How, I guess that's about a third of Scientific Games?
Yes.
How does lottery complement, if that's the right word, the other aspects of that business?
Well, again, I'm learning the businesses, and just to give you a point of perspective, I've been talking to the lottery heads in each of the states. I've probably gotten through 20 states so far, and the good news is that every state has come back and said, hey, we have a great relationship with Scientific Games, and blah, blah, blah. To me, the opportunity on the lottery side is every state needs more revenue, right? We're in a difficult environment for state governments. How do we do and how do we do a more effective job in providing that head of lottery with the right game book, so to speak, to show here's the assortment of things that we can do to drive incremental revenues? And I think many times it gets into some of the games that we have on the other side. It's something that I'll obviously learn as we go forward, but I think there's something to taking each side of the business and saying, what can we do better together? So stay tuned.
Right. One of the things that's true about lottery is not only do the states have a vested interest, but it's already there and it's legal.
That's right.
And so when you talk about extending into online gaming and doing some of these other things, you already have an establishment and governmental support.
That's right.
For those kinds of things.
That's right.
We're at G2E. where everybody has new products that they want folks to know. Are there one or two things that people absolutely must see when they come to the Scientific Games
I think
exhibit?
you might have seen, well, we won Best Slot Machine, Best Table Game, so we continue our great history of being on the forefront of new things coming out. The one that's fun to me is the new Seinfeld game, and to me, it's very personal because when we started Telemundo, we were on the west side of Manhattan initially, and every single day, and it was amazing, you would get in line and wait for the soup man, although on the Seinfeld show, he's known as the soup Nazi, every day. And it was very expensive. This is back in the late 80s, early 90s, and it was exactly the way it's described on the TV show. You had to get in line, you had to order your soup, you had to behave, you couldn't say anything to confuse him, you had to go the other side and have your money ready to pay him, and he'd hand you your bag. If you did anything to confuse him, he had a little sign in the corner in the back that said, "Hey, bread, $5 extra." So the people that didn't do it the way he wanted, he would then charge them an extra $5. Or he would say, "I'm not going to serve you." And I remember I used to go with my general counsel, and the general counsel always made a point of trying to drive him crazy. So eventually he was banned. So the show is very true to that, and we have the Soup Nazi, as he's known through the Seinfeld show, is going to be at our booth. So
Okay.
interested to see that.
Well, when we get to do our videos at the booth, we'll make sure to pay attention to that. Just a couple more questions. One is a core constituency of ours is our institutional investors. What should investors best know at this point about Scientific Games?
That the way we're going to run the business prospectively is very carefully. Is measured, orderly growth is important to me. When we build our budget for next year, as an example, it will be very thoughtful, and we will look at the way we develop the budget and then say, how do we then improve upon that, and create hopefully some opportunities to offset the inevitable thing that comes out of the blue that hurts a business. So just a very consistent, careful way of building towards a future state, and the future state, as I see it, is a much higher EBITDA level, hopefully a lower debt level, a much improved net debt to EBITDA for our company, which then opens up the virtuous circle, right? All of a sudden, if those ratios get better, your credit metrics are improved, the banks start coming, and then they want to offer you new products and more efficient ways of financing your balance sheet. That's really the end game for this, and I'm here to take that and build that future state.
Okay, very good. Any last comments?
No, I'm just excited. I think this is a fun industry. It's been a busy couple of months. It's early in the equation. I've been to China, I've been to Atlanta, I've been to London, I've been to New York, and trying to learn the business, meet the people, and it's been a lot of fun.
Great. It's been fun talking to you. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you so much.